Hey, what's up, guys? Today, I'll show you a horror film, The Devil's Advocate. Spoiler ahead, watch out and take care. Kevin is a prolific lawyer who has a good reputation in his profession. He is about to defend a teacher who has been accused of abusing a young student. As the young student narrates what the teacher did to her, he notices that the teacher tries to imagine it and tries to play with his hot sausage right at the court. This gives him a hint that his client is guilty of abusing the young student. When he is about to defend the client, he requests the judge to have a break. The judge allows it. He goes to the restroom where he smiles confidently as he sees himself in the mirror. Back at the court, he seemingly convinces the jury that the young student is lying. So later, he goes to celebrate at the disco with his wife, nicknamed Beauty. They are happily dancing around. When he takes a break, a man with a mustache, called Mr. Mustache, convinces him to join a law firm in New York. His reputation as a lawyer who never loses a case makes the firm have interest in him. The following day, he goes to his religious mother to notify her that he's moving to New York. He bids goodbye to his mother. After that, he proceeds to drive towards New York with Beauty. His first task in New York is to pick a jury for a trial. His picks are against the picks of the senior lawyer who interviews the jury. The senior lawyer makes Mr. Mustache pick between them. Mr. Mustache goes to the side of Kevin despite being a young lawyer. After that, Kevin is confidently walking in the streets of New York, while the charismatic head of the firm, named Milton, observes him from afar. The following day in their hotel room, Kevin announces the result of the trial to Beauty. He convincingly wins the case, and he successfully sets the teacher free, so they happily celebrate together. Later, he arrives at the lavish headquarters for the law firm. Its view is one of the most beautiful in New York. Shortly after, he meets Milton at his circular office. Milton gladly welcomes him to the firm. He brings Kevin to the beautiful yet scary rooftop of the building. Kevin introduces himself to him, especially his mother, since Milton is seemingly interested to know about his mother. Then, Milton randomly utters a particular Bible verse. In the end, Milton formally accepts him to the law firm. After that, Mr. Mustache guides Kevin and Beauty to their new home. Inside, his wife, Curly, welcomes them into the apartment. They are greatly amazed by how beautiful their new home is. It seems like they have a good life that awaits them. On his official first day at the job, Kevin is given a task to defend a man who is accused of violating health code. As he watches the footage, the man slaughters animals in a filthy way as a religious practice. So he goes to the client's home. As it appears, it is located in the decaying part of the city. On his arrival, he witnesses a grim-looking place of the client. He introduces himself to the client as the lawyer who will defend him. The client takes a tongue with nails and explains that he will use it to create silence. The client uses it against the prosecutor to help Kevin win the case. Meanwhile, Beauty is choosing a color to paint their home. She wants to paint it green. However, Curly keeps giving negative comments about the shades of green she chooses until she paints it with yellow instead. On the day of the trial, Kevin is able to defend his client convincingly. But it does help that the prosecutor is unable to provide a rebuttal to his case. Strangely enough, the prosecutor cannot speak and just keeps coughing. So he successfully wins the case. After the trial, Milton gladly congratulates him. He tells Kevin to appear small, and that way he will be unpredictable. Milton then teaches him to ride the subway rather than drive cars to exemplify this lesson. Later, Kevin sees their home completely messy due to the incomplete renovation of the apartment. Then he sees Beauty is already preparing for the upcoming party. At the party, the managing director of the law firm, Mr. Fatty, and his wife welcome them inside. He introduces them to the elites of New York. Suddenly, Mr. Mustache calls Kevin, making him leave Beauty alone. Shortly after, Milton starts a conversation with her. He convinces her that shorter hair will make her look more beautiful. Meanwhile, at the terrace, Kevin is having a conversation with a seductive lawyer, short-named Sexy. There, Sexy is jokingly seducing him until Milton joins them in the conversation. Milton calls them the future of the law firm. Later, Milton conducts a meeting in his office with Kevin, Mr. Mustache, and Mr. Fatty. Apparently, their VIP client, Mr. Bald, murdered his wife, Stepson, and the maid that night. So someone needs to defend him, and Mr. Fatty is an obvious choice since he has the highest position. But Milton chooses Kevin to handle the case. This greatly frustrates Mr. Fatty. As Kevin goes home, he sees Beauty being miserable. She is frustrated as Kevin leaves her alone at the party. The following day, Kevin goes to convince Mr. Bald to cooperate with him so they can win the case. Mr. Bald is in complete panic mode. But in the end, Kevin successfully convinces him. Meanwhile, Beauty is now short-haired. She is hanging out with her ladybird Curly, who is naked in front of her. As Curly wears her dress again, Beauty sees her face changes into a demonic form. So Beauty immediately leaves there. At home, she is furious at Kevin. She wants to leave New York since she is already unhappy there. At the same time, Kevin is always busy at work, leaving her and her hormones alone all the time. She is completely miserable despite having all the material things. As she cries in despair, Kevin gets affectionate with her to calm her down. Shortly after, it turns into a raging hormone game. Beauty suddenly appears to be sexy to Kevin. Rather than being concerned, this adds more thrill to Kevin. In his excitement, he plays the hormone game differently. This disturbs Beauty as she notices that there is something wrong with him. This kills her mood, and they just get frustrated in the end. In the next scene, Kevin asks how Mr. Ball puts his fingerprints at the gun in the crime scene. Out of irritation, Mr. Ball takes out his gun and demonstrates it himself. Kevin is enraged by the fact that he holds a gun, since if he gets caught having a gun, they will lose the case. So Kevin takes the gun out of his hands. Before Kevin leaves, he tells Mr. Ball that he will go talk to his assistant to testify at the trial. That night, Kevin arrives at their home with his mother and Beauty. Right in time, Milton is there with two hot women. Milton introduces himself to Kevin's mother. However, she seems to be uncomfortable around Milton, so she refuses to talk to him by just ignoring him. It seems that there is a lot of tension between them. As Milton is about to part ways with them, he tempts Kevin to join him upstairs with the two hot women. But Beauty senses it, so she gives him a bad look that makes Kevin refuse the temptation. The following day, as Kevin is about to head to work, he sees his mother leaving. Apparently, his mother is uncomfortable, and she notices that Beauty is not well in New York. So she suggests taking her home to their hometown instead, but Kevin refuses her to do that. In the end, his mother utters a Bible verse, telling him that the door for temptation is wide. At his work, Kevin looks at the horrifying photos of the murdered Mr. Bald's wife, stepson, and maid. After that, he is talking with Mr. Bald's assistant when he notices an operation happening in a room at the headquarters. Apparently, Mr. Fatty is shredding down certain files of the law firm. Mr. Fatty tells him to keep it a secret, since the Justice Department might chase them for it. Suddenly, Milton invites Kevin to watch a boxing match. Later at the subway, they encounter a thug who threatens to stab Milton. Then, Milton tells the thug in Italian that his wife was cheating with someone the moment he left their apartment. The thug then rushes to check his wife. After the boxing match, Milton introduces Kevin as the new heavyweight lawyer to a wealthy man. Shortly after, they go to a lavish party. Beauty seemingly tells Kevin to go home on the phone, but Kevin shouts at her and tells her that Milton pays their bills, so he needs to join Milton in the party. As a hot woman catches his attention, Beauty suddenly ends the call. Back at the party table, Milton whispers something to a woman beside him. Then the woman goes under the table to eat his smelly sausage. Kevin witnesses it, while Milton just smiles at him. Meanwhile, Beauty seems to be miserable while waiting for Kevin to go home. Suddenly, she starts to hallucinate, where she sees a baby playing with her ovaries, and she finds herself bleeding. The following day, she emotionally tells Kevin what happened to her. Apparently, the doctors told her that she could not bear children due to ovarian failure. She seemingly loses her mind as she talks to Kevin. She insists to Kevin not to leave her alone, but he proceeds to leave her when he receives a call from his work. Later, Mr. Bald reveals to Kevin that during the moment his wife got murdered, he was boning his assistant, but he is ashamed to reveal it, so he keeps it a secret. After that, Milton tells Kevin to drop the case since he needs to take care of Beauty. Milton tells him that everyone will understand, but Kevin does not want to lose the case and hates his wife after that, so he insists on continuing to handle the case. At the trial, Kevin makes Mr. Bald appears to be a dirty person as much as possible. This makes Mr. Bald furious at him after the trial. Apparently, it is Kevin's strategy, so that the jury will believe that Mr. Bald was boning his assistant during the murder of his wife. Later, Kevin encounters Mr. Fatty on the streets. Mr. Fatty is furious at him, as he sees his name having a part ownership of the law firm. He is frustrated that he worked so long at the firm, but he is still a managing director, unlike Kevin as a newbie already having a part ownership. However, Kevin is not aware of this. Mr. Fatty then threatens to rat out the secret of the law firm. At the headquarters, Kevin informs Milton about it, so Milton calls his secretary to summon Mr. Fatty to his office. Meanwhile, Mr. Fatty is jogging in a park when three thugs, who appear to have a demonic form, kill him in an instant. At the same time, Beauty in her home slowly descends into madness. The following day, Kevin interviews Mr. Bald's assistant about her testimony. The assistant claims that she has an affair with Mr. Bald, but when he asks her whether Mr. Bald's sausage is circumcised, she fails to answer. Kevin then realizes that she is lying. This means that Mr. Bald did murder his wife. Later at the subway, Kevin asks Milton for advice about Mr. Bald's case. He knows that Mr. Bald is a murderer, so he cannot decide whether to put the lying testimony of the assistant at the trial. It's either he sets free as a murderer or loses the case. Milton advises to follow his gut, and maybe it is time for him to lose. But at the trial, Kevin still proceeds to call the lying assistant as a witness. It appears that Kevin is not willing to lose despite setting free a murderer. In the end, he wins the case, and he successfully lets a murderer walk free. After that, Kevin rushes towards Beauty at the church. There she reveals to him that Milton abused her earlier in the afternoon. But he cannot believe it since Milton is at the trial earlier. So she reveals her naked body full of wound marks. Without a choice, he brings her to a mental hospital. The following day, at Mr. Fatty's wake in the church, the justice official comes to ask him about the secrets of the firm. However, he disregards the official since he needs to immediately visit Beauty at the hospital. The official then informs him that the teacher he set free found the body of the young girl in his truck. This greatly disturbed him. When the official is about to talk to him, Milton puts his finger on the holy water at the church. Suddenly, a car hits the official in the street, killing him in the end. Later, Kevin arrives at the mental hospital where he sees his mother taking care of Beauty. Then, his mother tells him about his father. In frustration, he just ignores his mother. Meanwhile, his fellow lawyer is letting Beauty see her face in the mirror. Beauty then sees the lawyer's face suddenly shift into a demon. This makes her throw the mirror at the floor. Then she locks the door of her room and proceeds to get a glass shard, while Kevin is trying his best to rescue her. But still, Beauty freely slits her throat. When Kevin is able to enter the room, it is already too late. Later, Kevin goes back to his mother to ask about his father. As it appears, Milton is his father. At that moment, he realizes that Milton is always there for him, trying to manipulate him. So he immediately heads towards Milton to confront him. When he is about to enter the headquarters, he notices that the city turns into a ghost town. On his arrival at the office, Milton awaits him there. In anger, he shoots Milton. However, he seems to be unaffected. Kevin realizes that he is a demon and calls him Satan, but he prefers to be called Daddy. Kevin blames him for everything bad that happened to him and to Beauty. However, Milton tries to make him realize that it is his fault for choosing to win every case, even with the moral cost of setting free evil people. Milton then utters, "Vanity is definitely my favorite sin, since it works like a drug that makes people feel high." Now Kevin feels guilty for all of his actions. Then, Milton introduces him to his stepsister, who appears to be sexy. Milton asks him why he feels guilty. He replies it's because of God. Milton then mocks God for giving man instinct, but at the same time he sets the rule against it. So Milton claims that he's a fan of man, since he lets man choose according to his nature. Later on, Milton reveals that he wants Kevin to take over the firm and have a child with his stepsister, but he wants Milton to convince him. Shortly after, his stepsister makes a seemingly convincing argument by showing her naked body to him. Then he begins to tongue massage her body, but he stops and utters free will to Milton. Then he suddenly shoots himself in the head. Consequently, Milton burns and comes back to his angelic form. At the same time, his stepsister decays into a corpse. As Kevin falls to the ground, he suddenly comes back looking at himself in the mirror right before the trial of the teacher. It appears that everything that happened earlier is a vision to warn him about defending the teacher. So this time, he chooses not to defend the teacher, since he is obviously guilty of abusing his students. This makes him appear like a hero, and many give him praises. A media man offers to write his heroic story as a lawyer. The media man gives him praise and calls him a star, so he gladly accepts the offer while he walks with Beauty downstairs. In the end, the media man turns into Milton and utters his iconic line, "Vanity is definitely my favorite sin." This is Daniel CC Movie Channel. Stay safe and enjoy your day.